apples started splitting in half off the tree. They just split right open with all the water in them.
Yeah, there was a major apple crop this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was apple trees I didn't even know I had on my property because there was apples. I was like, oh, wow, that's an apple tree. Compared to some other trees, and I was like, wow.
Do you have a lot of apple trees?
Well, I thought I had about, there's about a half dozen that I knew about that are old. They're like 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discovered some more,
Yeah.
you know, that were in behind some other trees, and then all of a sudden, you see apples. I was like, wow.
All right.
Good to go?
You ready to roll there? All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
I'm going to call it 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Call the meeting to order. Determine quorum, we have a quorum present, +1. Any disclosure of conflicts of interest of note?
So when we were discussing Mr. Griffin's application, when I refer to Detective Marquis of the Secretary of State's office, that is my son-in-law.
Okay. Did you know that, kid?
Yeah.
He's your son-in-law?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
All right, noted. Next on the agenda, we are going to open up a public hearing for a site design review for Mr. Kip Griffin at 960 Access Highway. Public meeting will be open at 6 p.m. So on page 2, everyone, here is an introduction from Penny. Penny, do you want to give an overview?
Sure. So at the last meeting, the planning board moved the application that Mr. Griffin has for automobile recycler license to public hearing. So we're having our public hearing tonight. In 2017, Mr. Griffin applied for a recycler license in Caribou. The request was denied because his lot is not 300 feet from a neighbor's well. Therefore, he worked with the town of Perham to operate an automobile recycler business to serve his used car lot in Caribou. State law requires that Mr. Griffin spend a minimum of 5 6-hour days at both his primary in Perham, which is his primary automobile recycler business, and his secondary location, which is his used car lot, to follow the state law. He operates this as a single operator, so it is impossible to repair, sell, and operate the business and be in full compliance. Mr. Griffin is working with the state to make Caribou his primary location for the recycling business, and then the Caribou location would not need to be licensed as a secondary location, and therefore there would be no minimum requirement for hours. Mr. Griffin would be able to work his hours in Caribou. Mr. Griffin will still store his vehicles in Perham and bring the cars to Caribou for repair or disassembly. Disassembled vehicles are taken back to Perham. The goal of this action is to allow Mr. Griffin to operate his business and comply with state law. The city can approve with conditions. One condition would be that vehicles must be drained before transportation to the Caribou location. So we have the public hearing. And you have on page 3 of your packet, after the meeting, the planning board had directed me to contact Maine Municipal to see if we could waive the requirement that he be 300 feet from the well, which is in state statute. And they have said it cannot be waived. And it says that I would note that the statute says that the 300-foot limit applies to a business that handles junk, scrap metal, vehicles, or other solid waste. I would assume that an auto recycler would handle such materials. And it asks if the city has an ordinance that applies to automobile recycling businesses. We do not. Does it have a site plan review ordinance that applies to business permits and provide some authority for the board to impose reasonable conditions, which, yes, we do. So I spoke to Detective Markey, like after we received this, and I reached out because I know the planning board wants to make this work. The state wants to, the state is the one that really started this because they would like to see him be able to operate his business and not get dinged from them for having two separate businesses that he needs to have his required hours. So when I talked to Detective Markey, he said, well, he talked to his boss, and his boss said, you know, the city can make conditions, and so what I have asked him to do is to put that in writing, that the state would be okay, and what the state would like to see, how they would like to have it worded for those conditions for issuing the 30A permit, because the 30A permit, which is in your packet, and it is on page 21. So this is what, if we're able to get everything worked out, this is what I would actually sign that would get sent down to Augusta with his application. And so this is stating that the applicant's business is required to be issued a permit under the junkyards and automobile graveyards, and this permit is a prerequisite to being licensed as a recycler. But Mr. Griffin doesn't want to have an auto graveyard. He just wants to be able to take the cars and work on them at his used car lot. So that's where we are. And I just checked my email again before we started our meeting, and I don't have anything from...
No public comment?
Well, nothing from the Secretary of State with what they would want to see in there for language.
Okay.
But public comment, no. We did everything that we're supposed to do for the public hearing. We had it in the paper. We had it, everyone who lives within 500 feet got a letter. I had a couple of people just call and wanted to know what the letter was about, because it's so much easier to call us than to read the letter. And then after I explained it, no one seemed to have any questions. You know, after that, I said, if you have concerns, you know, can you either come to the meeting or put them in writing for us to read into the record at the meeting, but none have been received.
Okay.
So, did you want to talk at all, or, I mean, that's,
You pretty much explained it.
yeah, so.
So without the language from the state, I don't see much action we can do tonight.
Tonight, no, but I mean, we've had the public hearing,
Right.
you know, that's, I guess, we fulfilled that requirement to have the public hearing.
So can we close the public hearing, and that will fulfill that requirement? Okay.
I think, right, Steve?
Yes.
So, yeah, and we did everything we were supposed to do. Everyone was made aware of it. I don't think we had any of the letters came back, so we were able to contact everyone. And again, the people I talked to on the phone, it was just, I got a letter from you. What is this about? You know, and so, you know, we just explained, and oh yeah, you know, he's been there for how many years? 5 years, and we've had no issues whatsoever. I mean, I think in 2017, with no track record, you don't know what kind of neighbor someone's going to be, but when someone's been there for 5 years and doesn't want to operate their business any differently, just wants to get rid of that requirement to spend time both places is all. So that's all I know about that. So we're just trying to work through, you know, how do we satisfy all areas of state government?
Okay.
And that's it.
So if there's no public comment, I am free to close the public hearing at 6:08. Is there any discussion amongst planning board members?
Yes. Our ordinance does not have any reference to recyclers of anything. We do have the section on automobile graveyards and junkyards. We also do not have a section outlining operation for a car dealership. and, or gas stations that do repairs. So when you think of what goes on at pretty much every gas station that has lifts and does repairs, I mean, they're changing oil and flushing antifreeze and batteries, and so there are plenty of gas stations that are in pretty close proximity to residential locations. And since we don't have anything to address the recyclers, I think this is really kind of up to the state to straighten out their statutes that make sense so that people can work and make a living. So it's not that he's to be operating an automobile graveyard or junkyard. It's more of a car dealership where he'll be doing repairs. And that's my 2 cents.
Like a maintenance garage.
Yeah.
Well, that was my thought. This sounds, and Kip, forgive me, more like a mechanic shop.
That's all I do. It's mostly take fenders off and put them on.
But Steve, the question I have is, when you think about it, how many of those shops, and I'm sorry, Kip, are near that public well, that 300-foot line to somebody's well?
Well, a couple hundred yards up the road is C&J's.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So it's a neighborhood
Yeah,
of this location,
yep.
what, a half dozen maybe homes,
And then
and then
CJ's.
CJ's, and then Westgate Road, so. And never an issue from, from the gas station doing repairs. And the same activities would be occurring more so at a garage
Yeah.
than at the applicant's location.
C&J's actually might predate some of those homes that are there.
Oh, yeah, probably,
So that's probably
yeah.
that
But,
non-issue.
and again, we have no ordinance dealing
Right.
from the past or present to address the issues. So, in our issues, it should be based on our ordinance. So that was my 4 cents.
4 cents, oh, I like that.
So what is the direction for staff from the planning board?
My opinion is we need to table the application until we have direction from the state.
Yeah, so is that good with you? I mean, we'll just wait, and then I'll forward you when I get some, I mean, just like when I got this from MMA, I just
Yeah.
forwarded it to everybody and go that way. It took them quite a while to get back to me.
MMA?
Yeah, I had another issue recently that I sent to them, and it took quite a while to get back, so I don't know. Of course, they have the MMA convention and stuff
Yeah.
going on too, so I don't know if that was something. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna table this.
Do we need an official
Motion.
motion there for that?
Yes, that'd be great.
I motion to table it until we hear back from the state.
Second.
Have a motion to table and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
JR?
Yep.
Eric?
Yes.
It is unanimous.
Okay, that's where we are today. So I'll let you know what I hear, and we'll go from there. So our next meeting will be in a month, so, yep. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you.
All right. Next, everybody, you have your minutes from the last meeting. Let's take a review. That starts on page 99. Is that where it is? I like the big numbers, Penny. Thank you.
Yes, well, see, I have to
Very
do that
nice.
for the council packets, so.
It works very well. I like it.
Yes.
How do you do that? Do you have to go in and manually?
No, so I have a program that will stitch, because I have, like, all of these are like different files, so I can
Yeah.
stitch it together, and then it just has a thing like edit page, page marks, and then I could put them anywhere. I could put it in the middle. I mean, I put them here because that makes the most sense, but I could do something different. And, yeah, so I think it makes it so much easier to just find, you know, what you have on what page, so. Yeah. But thanks for the compliment. I don't get very many, so that's great. I'm gonna write that in minutes. Penny was complimented for her big numbers.
For the record, I gave you a compliment the other day.
Yes, you did. I had to make a note of that. Oh, Penny was complimented from the letters. Yes, thank you. Yes.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. McElwain and a second from Steve. Any discussion? We'll take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
JR?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Minutes are approved. All right. Mr. Bagley?
Good evening. So, just a quick update. I think last time we talked a little bit about LD 2003-1706 and then the LD 101. We're going to hear more about that tonight. I guess that's on the agenda. I see it. But I just wanted to mention the city council received an update from this on Tuesday. Penny gave all the information that she just didn't do today. So we are aware that this is coming, and so when we get to that section, if you want to have more of a discussion about that, and where council's going to be on that, you know, we can bring that up then. But that's really the only update I had for now. Any questions for me?
I think so. I didn't have any.
Thank you.
Cruising right along. New business, community conversation on visioning and mission.
So tonight, we're going to hear from Catherine Ingraham from CEI Consultants, who will be our facilitator for our community conversation on vision and mission for the 2024 to 2034 Comprehensive Plan on October 26, 2023. Catherine Kat Ingraham is a resident of Hiram. She has been working in community planning and development for about 10 years. She started in municipal planning for Androscoggin County and moved into nonprofit community development work in 2016. She has been working with Community Heart and Soul in her current capacity since 2020 in several towns and cities across Maine and one in Massachusetts. Kat says she's very excited to work with Caribou. The logistics are the meeting will be October 26, 6 to 7:30 at the Caribou Wellness and Recreation Center. All are welcome and encouraged to attend this community visioning workshop and update on the comprehensive plan. Light refreshments and childcare will be provided. That was one of Kat's suggestions, and we thought that was a really great one.
Great one.
Catherine will take us through her vision for how this session will work and what we can do to help get feedback from Caribou citizens. And for those who cannot attend, our website wonders have developed a web page which will feature a form that will be active after the event. We also hope to be able to post updates and other feedback, and so it's cariboumaine.org/caribou2034. So what you have here is what Kat's going to be talking about, and so here's Kat. So if you don't mind coming to the microphone so people at home can hear you.
Thanks, everyone, for the time this evening. And for the record, I'd like to apologize for adding 5 or 6 more pages to your already comprehensive packets for this evening. So I think I'll just start with a quick summary of some of the things that Penny and Karen and I have discussed to plan out the framework for the meeting for that evening. I'd love to hear some feedback from you. Do you think these ideas are good? Would they work? Do you have any tweaks you might like to add to them? And then I do also have some personal asks of you and your time as well. So the overview for the night is to offer people an opportunity to get a little bit of an update from the community on what's happened over the past year for the comprehensive plan. A lot of work has been done on social media and since the event last October as far as collecting information from citizens. So just to give residents an opportunity to hear some of that in a succinct way from you, as well as updates on community development work and grants that the city has received over the past year. So I thought it would be kind of fun to start the evening there, and then break people into some groups for facilitated conversation focused around the 2014 mission and vision statements that were in the last comprehensive plan. As they are written now, they're a little wordy. Some of the things may be applicable, some of them may not be at this time. So I had thought it would be kind of fun to break into 4 different tables loosely around some themes. So what you have now, there's a theme that's pretty clearly about recreation, another about quality of life, another about the economy, and another about health and wellness. And those are just sort of generalized themes that summarize kind of the overarching topics of the mission statements from that year. So at each table, everyone would be given a copy of the statements as they stand, a few minutes to think about, you know, are these reflective of now? Will they be applicable 10 years from now? And what might be missing, what people might want to add, and hope that that starts like a nice rich table discussion for people there. And given an hour and a half for the total meeting time, it should give people enough time to have 2 of those separate conversations so people could get up from one table, go to another, and repeat the exercise just with a different topic, a different set of people. And then to end that evening with an update from the Caring for Caribou initiative, and just kind of bring everybody back together, thank them for their time, and then offer them the opportunity to give additional feedback with an online forum. So they could, if they had things to say about the other 2 topics, be able to do so there. And this was kind of focused as like a reverse engineering, so focusing more on the mission statements rather than the vision statements for the community. I found that works pretty well. Just to have more fruitful and intentional vision, to have more of a specific things that tie it to the city. So working from the visioning statements and work with you at a future meeting to come up with a more comprehensive and more tailored mission for Caribou for the next 10 years or longer. So these are activities I've done in other communities but tweaked a little bit for Caribou. Found that they work pretty well. People enjoy the opportunity to talk to friends and neighbors, especially when it's kind of centered around a particular theme or topic. It's easier for people to ground themselves in that. Also, including 2034 as like a point instead of just asking people what their hopes for the future are can help sort of solidify some ideas and a timeline that's less scary for folks. So I'm curious, you know, if you think this would be fun, if you would be interested and willing. We'd love to have Amanda, if you're available that evening, to do the introduction. As many of you who are willing and able to be there to act as either table facilitators or as scribes for the night. In the write-up for the evening, I've kind of come up with like a facilitator's guide, a breakdown of how to spend those 20-minute conversations, questions to ask at the particular tables, along with some draft worksheets, and then if conversation stalls, there's also some images in there to kind of further discussion for folks who might like pictures more than words. And they're not like pictures from anywhere specific in Caribou, but rather just like which of these images conjures up a feeling that might, you know, resonate with you for what you could see in the future of the town. So I know it's a lot, and I'm sorry to just get this to you this morning. We were working on it yesterday, so.
Well, they're just getting it right now because I didn't know
Okay.
I copied them both to the meeting.
Sorry, so even less prepared. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and as I said, I'm really interested and curious to hear your feedback on that.
I like the timeframes, that you have broken up, the first 5 minutes, the 5 to 15, so on. keep everyone, you know, hopefully moving, not stall out,
Hopefully.
hopefully, right.
I wish you showing this new logo, with the care and what you do.
We have a new logo?
Well, it was just more, well, she has it on the thing, but,
Is it on
yeah,
there?
it's right on the
Okay,
top,
oh,
yeah.
It's the, yeah, motto kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to think about how do you care for Caribou, what do you envision for Caribou, and what can we do
To make it happen. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so the hope was to have 3 posters for each of those topics as people come in the door, similar to last year's event where people voted with little stickers on what they'd like to see the city focus on. So what we're working with is data from last year and also from social media posts where there was a bit more, people kind of dug into specific projects or places in town that they'd like to see. So, you know, how do you care for Caribou? Do you volunteer? Do you attend local sports? Do you serve on a board? Do you, I don't know, donate money? Were some of the examples that we had thought of, and open to more, and leaving space for people to write their own answers. As far as envision, you know, what do you envision for Caribou in 2034? And just leaving that wide open for people to get imaginative with. And then the do were the specific projects. So some of the things that got mentioned were multi-use trail access, blight cleanup, enhanced riverfront projects.
downtown.
Yes,
Yeah,
downtown, wayfinding and signage was another one that came up quite a bit.
Those would be kind of, as people come in,
Right.
we would encourage them, we'll seed it with some of these ideas, the care, do, envision. Okay, maybe not the envision, but, and ask, you know, encourage people to put stickers, to write their own, draw pictures. Kat's also gonna come up with, we're all gonna come up with some activities for the, whatever kids we have. So it'll be a little directed activity. Gary Marquis
Yeah.
is helping us find somebody to keep the kids that show up. And we're gonna have refreshments for them and it'll be a day.
Yeah, in other communities, we've done similar exercises with children that we've done with the adults. But rather than have them write, we might have them draw. So like draw what you appreciate about Caribou or draw what you'd like to see for the future of Caribou. And that's a really, it can get some really fun results that way.
Oh, I really like that. I think that's a great idea.
You sometimes need an adult to help interpret,
Yeah.
you know, what's drawn, but we have methods to for that too.
No, I think the interactive, like the meeting we had last year, a lot of people were engaging and it was really interactive and I thought it was great. Like, I think it was more than I had ever anticipated it to be, so it was good.
We're hoping for a repeat.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
right.
Yeah.
But people have, you know, they've attended the meetings that we've had. They, just like Kat was talking about on social media, we've had Bethany and Christina, who are both going to be away for the meeting, but they've been working on social media posts for the weekends, like when people would be home, for people to comment, you know, about, well, Karen, you're on Facebook. What have they had for questions?
Oh, well, just questions according to our work groups. Like,
Yeah.
what would you like to see for the economy? When we had our economic development work group, they took those questions that we looked at and they put them out there. Okay, what would you like to see in Caribou and recreation? That wasn't started early on, it kind of got started
Yeah,
this
later,
spring.
yeah.
But we're gonna, that's an ongoing, we want to connect what we're doing in these public meetings and in our work groups with the social media. So that, they help us with that. We just say, oh, so this has already been put out on Facebook, this meeting. We have umpteen postcards are going
Yeah.
out tomorrow, hopefully, on this, personal postcards. And-
Like inviting people that were there before, the people that were on boards and commissions, business owners, like we did the last time. So for the one we had a year ago, I sent them out to those same group of people, business owners and people who are on boards and committees in town. Yeah.
What was the count? Did we ever get a count from last year?
Oh, it was like 50.
50, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
50 people.
The room was crowded.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a lot more than we expected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The donuts were good.
yeah, yeah.
We're gonna do that.
We hear when our donuts.
Yes.
Donuts and maybe not so much
Snacks.
coffee, because we have a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
So I'm particularly interested in the last part of that motto, do. Okay, that's powerful, and I really appreciate that in a motto. So what I'm leading to is, how does that relate to the mission, a mission statement? So I'm curious to get your thoughts on how important is it when we get later in the comprehensive plan and when we break down all of our goals and strategies, and there's page after page after page in each one of these different categories, I wonder how important do you think it is to provide traceability back to the mission for each of those goals and strategies? The strategies are really tasks. You know, so I think, in my mind, I would like to see those strategies traced back to the mission, just as a reference off to the side. This applies to, this part of the mission. And that way we're showing, it's what you said earlier, reverse
You
engineering.
could key each of the strategies
Yeah, exactly.
to one of those four
Where it
missions.
applies, and that way we're showing
We could
that
easily do that.
our
Yeah.
actual task, what we're doing, supports the mission.
Each mission, or the
Or
mission,
parts
or
of-
the
parts of
vision,
the
the
mission.
mission, yeah. And Kat's explaining that once we get all these missions on these four separate topics, which you also, somewhere in that packet is the 214 mission, okay? Which we're going to start with and decide, and I would say start thinking about that yourself, and maybe which one you'd like to facilitate, if any of them. But hopefully we'll, I don't know if they'll stay the same, they'll get revised, whatever. In the plan, if any of you have the actual plan, as planning board members, you might want to look at the bullets that are under those, okay, which is too much detail for us to
Do in one
bring into
night,
this
90
public
minutes,
forum.
yeah.
We kind of made that executive decision, because they're very wordy, as she alluded to. So we took the top level, those are the four that are going to be at the table that we want to revise or keep the same, on the economy, on the quality of life, which Kat actually coined those wonderful, I love those. She kind of gave them a context, those four missions that came up. And then she'll help us craft, as a planning board, a vision, as she mentioned. The vision comes out of the mission statements, and the vision is like the overarching, what is Caribou? What is our vision for Caribou, okay? Made up of all these stuff. And Penny's thinking that we'll do this again in the spring. One last, when the plan is drafted, pretty much all put together.
I can see what you're saying, because
Yeah.
years ago when you would go to, like, say, a conference, like, they had topics and it was kind of random. But now you go to a conference and everything ties back to something, with whatever you're going to. Like, if I'm going to something that's IAAO or ICMA, it has to do with something that's key performance area in that particular discipline. And so they all go, and you can go on a track, like, okay, we're going to do the technology track, or,
Health and wellness. track.
yeah, exactly. And so that's what I guess I'm kind of thinking with this, is just like that's what my mind goes to, just like when you're picking through things, you're kind of going back to one of those key areas. We're going to be doing the same thing with these different tasks in the
front page of each.
right, the comprehensive plan is going to have to go back to, like, what we're saying are the important things over the next 10 years. That's a great idea. And I think it's very doable, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
It helps you shape your mission,
Mhm.
to go to those strategies, goals and strategies.
Mhm.
Say, okay, what's it saying? What's the meat of it saying?
Mhm.
And then make sure that you can tie that back to your mission
Mhm.
statement.
Yeah,
So there's context and
Mhm.
relevancy
Continuity.
Right.
Yeah.
and continuity.
It makes planning more accessible, in my experience as well, just to regular citizens who maybe don't have either the educational or the learned background, to be able to, easily discover where things came from and just the language having those bullet points that go to a more developed technical plan. As I know, comprehensive plans get pretty long and pretty lawyery and engineer speak. So just to be able to provide some higher level traceable elements, I think, really just makes it a more user-friendly community document rather than just a plan that sits on a shelf.
Which is what we definitely do not want.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're really trying so hard to get as many voices heard through the process, and we're keeping it with our citizen boards, you know, who do have everyone here. Actually, why don't everyone maybe introduce themselves to Kat? So she knows who you are, and I guess your special powers that you bring to the planning board. Because literally everyone has their own, really, their special power that they bring to the planning board. And I think that's why this planning board has been so successful with working on this plan. I mean, all of our efforts, like we talked about in our meeting, have been very successful with this plan. And I really think it has to do with the people that are here, and we have 2 people that aren't here, but, yeah. So anyway, so where do you want to start, Amanda?
Steve.
Okay, Steve.
I don't have my cape. But I'm retired. I worked as a contractor. I've worked in field engineering. I've worked as a real estate broker. And I spent my last 10 years working here for the city of Caribou as their code enforcement officer and housing director. But I'm retired, so I do
But he's
have-
also like a plumbing inspector, an electrical inspector, like every kind of like boiler operator inspector. And like you would probably have 52 cards. You probably could have played, Old Maid or something with all of his cards that he has there.
Now you're just embarrassing me.
Well, thank you for continuing to serve in retirement.
I'm Frank McElwain. I have a background in public education, teacher, administrator, and a ongoing background in farming and agriculture.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I'd like to just start out with, I'm jealous that Steve got to say retired 3 times. I'm far from that. I'm J.R. Belanger. Proper name is James. I go by J.R. I have been in banking for the last 8 years, and prior to that, I was in housing. I also serve on the housing board, the chair. Yeah, it is a great group. I agree with Penny. I don't like to reveal my superpowers, so.
Okay, so you'll just have to guess.
I will
keep
try to
that.
guess later,
Okay.
JR. Thank you.
My name's Amanda Jodrell. I am also not retired. Extremely jealous of that
Yeah.
as well.
Did I start something?
It is a pipe dream at this point. My day job is I'm a structural engineer for an architectural and engineering firm based out of Auburn, and I moved to Caribou in 2017. Before remote work was the thing, and decided to start serving for the planning board in 2019. So that's my background. No cape as well.
Eric Hitchcock. I currently work for the State of Maine Department of Agriculture. But previous, I worked for 10 years with the Department of Environmental Protection and Land Use Regulation. So that's kind of probably why I ended up on the planning board. So, but my background is in mostly agriculture and environmental science. So that's why I'm here.
Yes, that's his superpower. Yes. Do you want to go to him?
Me? Okay, so I'm the liaison, the council liaison to the planning board, but I spent 4 years on the planning board prior to, so I'm pretty familiar with the planning board processes and the comprehensive plan. Well, my background is 20 years in the Air Force, where I was involved in research and development, acquisition, flight test. And since retirement from the Air Force, I run an engineering consulting firm supporting back to the Air Force for space technologies, and so I do work for them there. But my special power, I think, is just to annoy people. Honestly, I get into the details of things, and I know you need people like that, and that's
Yes.
kind of my role, to annoy people
Make
with the
sure it's done
details
right.
and ask the tough questions and all that stuff. So that's what I like to try to do, and I think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I know I'm pretty good at
Yeah.
annoying people.
Look at that.
Penny and I get along. very
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I'm talking about others.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And Dan is my neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
on the Madawaska Road, yeah.
She's always calling and complaining about the wild parties.
Yes. No, but my husband drives by your house and wants to cry because of your lawn. And what a year to try to grow a lawn like this year, but anyway.
It looks good. Driveway.
Oh, no, it's looking great, and the driveway's looking great, but he's like, what a year to have to try to style a lawn. So anyway.
It's going to be a multi-year effort because the
Mhm.
lawn
Mhm.
is a mess.
Yeah, so.
At least it's green.
Yeah, it is green, and it's a lovely shade of green. I don't know what kind of,
It's several shades.
it's all the shades, dimensional. but-
Multiple shades.
yeah, that's great. So what we need is, so who would like to be facilitators at the tables? So we have, we'll have one on health and wellness, recreation, quality of life, and economy. I'm trying to remember who did what. I think JR, you did economy, right?
So I did. I should
Yeah.
lead with, I'm out of town.
Oh, okay, well, that would have been, yeah, you should definitely lead with that.
Yeah.
So JR is out of town.
Yeah.
Health and wellness. Okay. That's the only one I could remember was the JR did economy. Who did recreation?
I was there,
It's
but,
mostly Gary.
yeah,
Gary was leading that.
Yeah.
and myself, but that might be good for Eric. Because Eric did like the natural resources and the agriculture and. it
Yeah,
was-
Frank and I were at that meeting, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Recreation? you-
No, the natural
Natural
resources.
Oh, yeah,
resources, yeah.
that was pretty winter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can do that if need be.
Okay. So how about
Related
health?
to recreation.
Yeah, how about health and wellness?
I can take a table. Pick one. I don't have a real hankering for anything, so put me at one.
Okay, does anyone have a hankering for health and wellness? Does anyone, how about quality of life? I'm going to start picking people.
All right, I'll do quality of life.
Okay,
I'll help you out, Penny.
I'll do health and wellness.
okay.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, Thursday, the 26th. Yeah. Okay, so we have, Mr. McElwain is health and wellness.
I bet
And-
Dave would love to do economy.
I was
Oh my
gonna-
God, you're
I was
right.
gonna suggest-
Yes,
Dave would
yeah.
love to do, I'm sorry, did somebody else get that one already?
No?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I believe Dave Corvo did.
Yeah.
You know, Dave would love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, he's not here, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I second the motion.
Yeah.
That he would be a good.
He would love that one.
Yes. And he'll be there.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Okay.
Did we get, no, Steve, you're not signed up for anything, are you?
We just ran out.
We need note takers.
Yeah, we
though,
need some
Steve,
note
as
takers
well.
too. Are you good at taking notes, Steve?
Who's doing recreation?
Here.
Eric.
I think that's the one I got drafted for.
There you
Yeah.
go. Lovely.
So, Steve, would you like to be a note taker at one of these?
I guess I could.
Okay, which one? You can have first pick.
Economy.
Okay, so Steve. Okay, Dan, would you like to be a note taker?
I would love to, I'll be out of town.
Are you, aw.
Supposed to lead with that.
Yeah, we're gonna have, yes, you're on the agenda. Yeah, you are.
Speak as.
I guess we talked about it, but we didn't put it down here, like the,
If anything changes,
Okay.
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Currently, I'm scheduled to be out of town.
Okay.
Returning
Yeah, we
Friday.
wanted you to kind of give an overview after Amanda introduced everybody and
Mhm.
kind of talked about. what
Welcomed everybody.
I would
Yeah.
love to do that.
We were going to have you just give an inspirational talk about all this great stuff that's going on here.
Yeah.
So maybe you would know somebody that could go in your place. Would there be another council member?
Well, I mean, I can talk about
Yeah,
it, you know,
yeah.
that's all, as staff. I'm trying to remember if Ken talked at the last one or not. I can't remember. I remember John did.
You did.
Because Dan was planning board chair then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and John did.
John did.
Yeah.
As the liaison.
Oh, John Morrow,
Yeah.
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 Okay. So, of course, Karen and I can be scribes somewhere. I think, Kat, you can probably be a scribe somewhere. Although you're probably going to be our time, because we'll have to have a timekeeper too, like, wrap it up, you got 5 minutes.
I'm pretty good at multitasking,
Okay, good, good, good.
so if need be, I'm happy to be a note taker and
Yeah,
timekeeper.
yeah. Well, I might ask Gary if he wants to be like, maybe he'll be the note taker for recreation, and then Karen and I can do these other two.
Yeah, I was kind of planning on if you had enough note takers to be able to just float from group to
Okay,
group, and
then
if
we'll
anyone
put-
needed help
yeah.
or
Yeah,
got stuck or something like that,
Mhm.
be happy to be a
Okay.
backup.
So we'll plan on that. I'll ask Gary about being then we'll be note takers too. Yeah, and so that will give you, you can float and watch the time and,
And help if a table's stalled. or
Yeah.
You could help.
So to make it easier for everybody who's willing to be a table facilitator, I've got facilitator guides, just to help lead the discussion. The questions will be relatively the same at each table, but I can email all of those
yeah, that'd be great.
to Penny, and she can send them to you, or we can correspond directly, whatever is easier.
So
fits
what we can do
protocol.
is we'll send it and then I'll just copy everybody and you and then we'll all be in a group chat. Well, a group email, I guess it's not a chat, it's an email, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
JR has already learned today that technology is not my.
You got us up and running, you're doing a great job.
We assume we're up and running, I'm hoping so. Okay.
Something that I just took away from an interview that we did was speaking to a group of people who don't necessarily engineer speak, I guess you could say. They put together like a Brady Bunch, like thought-provoking questions, like a visual that, you know, get people like talking like, oh, let's pick community service for 500, and there's like a question underneath or something like that. So like you get people like asking questions like, oh yeah, I never thought about that, or oh, that's a good idea, or, you know, stuff like visually people can see and start a conversation instead of everybody just looking at each other vacantly. Just a thought.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
I think it's an interesting incorporation. And I think I recently saw a senator do that with Jeopardy and
Oh.
I think it was at this US level.
Oh, I don't know.
During one of the trials, they had like a Jeopardy question sort of thing going on. People played, it was cool.
Oh, that's fun.
That was sort of the idea behind the images.
Yeah.
So if, you know, people read it and they're like, okay, yeah, whatever, like that still fits, the table facilitator could use visual prompts, but I'm happy to explore some other ideas. We only have 2 weeks, so I don't want to
Right, engineer everything,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the thing, the last one, people were very forthcoming with ideas and answers, and I was really, Karen and I just couldn't believe it. Like, we talked after the meeting, and we were just so, like, energized by how much,
People cared.
yes, people cared so much about, about everything that was going on, and, yeah. So does anybody have any more questions for Kat? And everyone knows their assignments, except those of you who will be out of town.
How convenient.
And out of town better not just be Prescott. Oh, goodness. I know when you're out of town, like you're like out of town. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to doing this with you.
All right, thanks so much.
We're looking forward to having you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know the next item was the Dave Corvo special.
Yeah, so I guess we'll hold that over.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's okay with you. Unless anybody had any thoughts that they brought with them. That was something he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, let's leave it on the,
Thanks so much, Kat.
on the agenda for November. All right. Old business.
So, we've talked before about LD 2003, which was signed into law in April 2022 and requires municipalities to amend or create new zoning ordinances. It was designed to remove regulatory barriers to housing production, allow additional density for affordable housing developments, additional dwelling units per lot in residential areas, and accessory dwelling units on the same lot as a single-family home. LD 1706 clarifies the implementation date. The implementation date for Caribou is January 1, 2024. I'm not convinced that's a reasonable target. The department amended 19-100 CMR Chapter 5, and that final rule was effective October 1. So it was actually just released October 1, and somehow we're supposed to magically have all this done in January. It's not reasonable. The Housing Opportunity Program grant funding is available for service providers to support municipal ordinance development. The City of Caribou supported the application of Northern Maine Development Commission to obtain a 2023 service provider grant. They were awarded the grant and could begin work on October 1. This legislation has established the Housing Opportunity Program within DECD, and they are providing guidance, which I enclosed. You probably remember at the last meeting, and then I had emailed around, they had listening sessions all over the state, and one of them was in Caribou. And Karen and I both went to that one.
Was that the one that was at the library?
Yeah, that's the one at the library. And that's what this PowerPoint was from that.
How did that go?
I thought it went,
Informative and helpful, and, you know, they were available.
Yeah.
Those kind of meeting places of people, but, yeah, I think you're going to roll that NMDC.
Right, so Kristen Henry from NMDC was there, and she's going to be working with Jay on this. And so she was taking a lot of notes, asking a lot of questions. Some of the towns represented in the room had already hired consultants to work with them on it. Like there was someone from Madawaska, and they had already hired someone. We were kind of waiting to see if NMDC was going to get the service provider grant, so we could support their efforts with that. And they did. And Presque Isle is working with them too. So the actions that will need to be taken by the City of Caribou is to work with NMDC for the development of the ordinance and other considerations, this is what Karen and I heard about when we were there. The city can add provisions, like for example, that 1 unit per lot with an accessory dwelling unit is owner occupied. And many areas of Caribou are served by a subsurface wastewater disposal system. And as far as I know, those have not been amended, so.
Meaning that they can add an accessory dwelling unit to their existing.
Yeah, but only if they have the capacity in their septic system.
And what are the records like here for everybody's subsurface wastewater?
Well, spotty at best. Over the years, you've had, different people working in that position since the 70s when you had to start keeping records and maintaining them. So the great thing now, as opposed to when I first started working in code enforcement in 2014, when Steve retired, no judgment, was now the state has them online. So if the state has a permit that was sent to them, it's scanned in. So, and we really try to encourage people to look up their own. But sometimes they'll come in and they're like, I don't even know where to start. So we'll chase back the title, so at least we know what names we're looking for and different, because you can do like a 5-year span of time, or you can do actually all the years, but if you would know who owned it And, where am I getting the 5 years? Oh, because they're good for 2 years, so it's like you would think they would be within that.
But it's not
5
saying
years.
it's good
Yeah,
for 2 years?
Yeah. So, we try to help people, but there's some we don't have, and because they were put in before people had to bring in copies, had to get permits. And some of them just were lost. Like, I can remember, what was it, Steve? Someone left a box of them and left the window open or something.
All the ink washed off the paper,
Yeah,
bleached right out.
yeah, you know. And photocopies are better today than they were, you know, years ago. And so it's, but we do the best we can. We have code files. Well, if someone comes in, we go there first and see if they have them.
What are the chances that people design their septic systems to take one more bedroom?
Not very often.
Not very
Yes, I
often.
am.
Yeah.
Because they're always, cost is always the factor. So people are always like, what is the minimum I have to do?
Right.
And that's always the thought when they come in here. Yeah. Yeah, so I have more questions and answers, but I did at least, like Councilor Bagley said in his update, I've updated the council with the same information, and this is where we stand today. The new rule was released, the funding was released for NMDC to get started. I did not bother them October 1st to say, like, have you started? But I have it in my calendar to do on Monday, because I figure I'll give them that gives them 2 weeks to see if they have started on it or not. So that email will be going out on Monday the 16th. They're familiar with our ordinances, so, you know, I think we'll get something good. I think that this HOP and DECD, they're not really providing language, is what I got from there. They're just, I don't know, reading over what people have, but they're encouraging, you know, all they're like is, well, have your attorney read it. We'll read it over for you to see if it, you know, meets the requirements of the statute, but they're not helping. Like, in the beginning when this started with LD 2003, it was, okay, we're going to help people. We're going to write sample ordinances. And I don't know what happened to that, because that didn't happen. But they have these grants for places like at NDC to help, and I know they will. They'll get us something, and
So the plan of action on that, I was curious, I was going to maybe bring it up at the council meeting. So the plan of action is NMDC is going to draft the language. They're going to review and draft something for the planning board then to consider and discuss.
Yep.
So do you have any sense of what the timeline for that is?
like I said, I'm going to email them Monday,
Okay.
you know, because October, I checked with them to get the status of, like, the grant. You know, did they get the grant? And what they said is yes, and we can start working on it October 1st. And so my thought was, I'll give them 2 weeks before I start bothering them to see if they have started it.
Because I would anticipate it would be a months-long effort before we hear it.
Oh, yeah, but like I said, my thought was after 2 weeks, just check in, hey, can Caribou be first? We'll be your guinea pig.
But then we have to get it. We have to,
Has to go through the planning board.
Right.
Then it has to be sent to the council.
right,
That's what I'm saying, and the council only has 4 meetings left.
yeah. There's no way.
So it's, and they must realize that. And you're talking about Caribou, who, you know, we have a planning board. We have a city council.
Right.
You know, we have, you know, we don't just have one meeting a month of the council like many communities do. They meet twice a month, but it's still, I don't think it's going to be enough time.
What happens if we don't get it in by?
I don't know. I don't think there's any like teeth in.
Okay.
I guess the worst thing that could happen is if
Somebody comes in.
with their permit.
Yeah.
Okay, I want an ADU.
Yeah,
And we've actually, there's been a couple of people come in and want to do that. And I've said to them, look, there's new legislation. We can't approve it now because our ordinance doesn't allow that. But if you come back after the first of the year, you might be able to do it next summer. because you're not going to build something, an ADU in your yard in February. So, and, you know.
I wonder if
You're
we-
allowed, oh, sorry,
I
Steve.
wonder if we converted a residential one zone, just to turn that land into residential two. And I think a lot of the wording in our ordinance now would fit with the new state legislation for second, third units, or I guess up to 4, as I read the thing.
Yeah, up to 4.
But I think when you're dealing with the R1, which is pretty much in our compact zone on public water and sewer, the capacity to handle the sewerage in town would be different for an applicant living in the R3 zone. Being that to do any kind of an addition would trigger the need for that HHE 200 form, the subsurface plan. And if they don't have one, they'd have to have a site evaluator come and establish a plan of what they actually have. I think that's what a HHE 244, so that then they'd have a plan of what's there, and that's going to be based on so many gallons per day, 90 gallons per day per bedroom. So to add this additional dwelling unit, that's an additional 90 gallons to their existing plan or to the plan that they had to develop post. So that before they can build the thing, to meet that subsurface wastewater code, they have to have a septic system capable of handling that extra 90 gallons per day. So it's an issue for the expense. People in the country in the R3 zone, they're going to incur the cost of either having their leach field extended or redesigned and then re-extended. Not so much for the people in town.
Right.
Where the R2 zone is located in town now, which supports multifamily dwellings.
I thought our R1 lot size don't fit into the R2.
Well, I think with the way I've read through the information from the state, it doesn't matter about lot size as long as these new structures meet the setback.
So what you're talking about is taking the language about from R2 and applying it to the R1 zone.
Yeah.
Not, and not
wouldn't have an R1.
without the lot size.
Yeah, we just wouldn't have an R1 zone anymore.
Well, this kind of illustrates concern. So
Yeah.
we have a limited time frame. Well, we think we have a limited time frame. So I guess what I'm thinking now, you might consider having NMDC come every time.
Oh, yeah,
you meet
absolutely, yeah.
To give you an update and give you a sense of what direction they're heading. So if they're heading in some
Right.
direction that is crazy in your minds, you can have that discussion.
Right.
You get it resolved before you wait however many months for them to dump the entire thing on
Right.
you to try to unravel.
Yeah.
If they're
And
willing to
also
come in and do that.
going.
Pardon?
Right.
They'll also get action.
Yeah.
If they know they're.
If they know they're kind of.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
great point.
It'd be nice if they came and presented options for us to
Yeah.
Right.
give feedback to.
Right, so I put on my list, based on this, to invite them to come to the November meeting and give us a plan,
Right.
update.
Do we have to have a public meeting too? Do we have to hold a public hearing on a new ordinance?
Well, we would have to, yes.
And then you, and city
Yes.
council too?
Yeah, so as I'm saying, like, to
There's
me,
no way.
yeah, it doesn't,
They won't make it.
yeah.
There's no way, yeah. Hopefully nobody come, well, good thing about January 1st is nobody's building in January.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
'Cause
That might be our only saving grace.
Right, and it's just like you're saying, like, the problem would be if someone came in.
Right, they're not gonna be doing that
But I don't think
in January.
someone's gonna come in and
Yeah.
say, I'm January 1.
Unless if they're plopping a tiny home.
Right, but see, the other part of this is, like, we can't, like, parking spaces, we can't deny a permit if they don't have, like, enough parking spaces. Like, there's so many things in here that we can't deny a permit based on all of these things that before we would have
Mhm.
to look at, and we can't.
Except for setbacks. You can hold them to setbacks. Okay.
I think there are exceptions on the setbacks too. Exceptions meaning there are some there are some setbacks that they will not allow us to keep.
Which ones are those?
I can't remember. I remember reading, there's a special case, maybe you remember.
I don't, because I was thinking that's our one thing, like, we can at least
Yeah.
kind of reduce the
We have some
density by having some of that,
flexibility, I think there's.
but, yeah.
But it throws the lot density out the, but, this is interesting, this is interesting, because my brother, this is funny, my brother lives in Bangor, and he tore down his old garage and put a new garage up, and wanted to make it just a little bit bigger. City wouldn't let him, because his lot density was too much.
Or like lot coverage?
Lot coverage was
Yeah.
too much. But now that you're saying that's going out the window.
I don't know that they said anything about coverage. I'd have to look that up to see if, because we have that in
We
our
do.
land use.
It's in the subdivision law.
Yeah.
The
It's
lot
in every
coverage.
lot coverage is in, and even in the R3 zone.
You have no choice, because they're compelling you to allow
Right.
ADUs. Whether it has the density or the coverage is limited on ordinance or not.
Yeah,
It's not an exception.
yeah.
So
You could
that-
have a quarter-acre lot with
Yeah,
completely,
full, as long as you met the setback.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just something else. So after the city council meeting, when I was talking to my husband the next morning, I said, what was your takeaways from the meeting? He's like, the state is making it very hard for you to do your job right now, isn't it? I said, okay, you got you picked up what I was putting down with my presentation on all these different laws, and I'm sorry, Eric, I know you work for the state. We have so many, so
You're not telling me
many things, you know,
Didn't live with for 10 years.
yeah.
The story gets worse when we talk about light and 101.
Right, and also this with the tax-acquired property, I mean, they're taking tools out of our toolbox for that too, and, I mean, we had a situation today, a person who lives next door to a property where the person has died. We have no idea if this person has any heirs, where they would be, nothing. So the house will be tax acquired this year because he's been dead for 3 tax cycles. And they're like, okay, so when are you taking it? When can I bid on it? Well, sorry, but now because of the way things are going with the legislation, we don't know if we're even going to take anything this year. Because the state is saying, we have to, if we take something through the automatic foreclosure process, we have to list it with a real estate agent, find the heirs, give them any proceeds, you know,
Oh, that's right.
new thing. And so and they don't address, you know, these things where we have no idea about finding heirs to property. And no one's been paying the taxes, so obviously no one cares about this, you know.
We also don't know how the land bank initiatives at the state
Are
level
affected, yeah.
are affected, because there's a whole other, thrust due to this land bank thing that they're still making rules on. And at the same time, they're coming over and trumping the whole thing by saying, you gotta return any proceeds. So I don't know how to, it's nowhere in the language that I saw.
No, and the other thing, Midland Street is a good example. That was a chronic nuisance property, it was a blighted property. You could see it from the old bypass. And we were so excited when the city was able to take that through the automatic lien foreclosure process and tear it down. But there's no real provision for us to be able to do that now, because it only talks about having, we have to maintain the property. Well, in our thinking, the highest and best use of that property was to tear it down, because it was, like I said, it was a chronic nuisance. There was,
It's not making any.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Like,
maintain something
wouldn't
that's-
make sense to maintain the property.
Right.
And also, it was getting rid of it just attracted the wrong kind of neighbors. And we were able to clean up the areas of that neighborhood by by taking properties through that automatic lien foreclosure process. And that's just not an option because there's not a mechanism for us to recoup any costs, or even if we say, okay, maintaining the property is cleaning it up, demoing it and cleaning it up. So but what you can do is if you go through a dangerous building action, assess a special tax, well then that was the tax that was foreclosed, part of the tax when it was foreclosed on. So that you can recoup, but you have to go all the way through the dangerous building action, which is a protracted process also. So it's, it keeps going with all that. So stay tuned, but I did make a note. Do you have any other recommendations for staff other than to invite NMDC to our next meeting to give an update? And of course, if I get updates in between, I can always just email them to you. But
Is it going to be Jay?
yeah, it's supposed to be Jay and Kristen.
He requested he give an update on the
Oh.
Wednesday conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
Great
actually
idea.
be- Yeah, both.
Yeah.
We'll double book them.
Yeah.
And I'll be meeting with him in the next week or two. Put our stuff together.
Kenny just added on to her to-do list for Monday.
Yeah, that's okay. I can amend my email. This hasn't been synced up.
Oh, it's in drafts?
Oh, well, no, it's in my, scheduled sentence, yes. Yep. So you have update on the different grant programs, grants and other good stuff here. I just thought the easiest thing to do was to make a list and then just keep adding updates as I had them. And as far as staff updates, I have a copy of the manager's report from this week's meeting and then the permit report for September. And I have blight on here because sitting in my chair as the city manager, I get more feedback about blight than anything else.
People with comments, letters, emails,
Yes.
calls.
Yes. Yeah. Even, yeah.
Did you want to give an update on the latest on the broadband?
Yeah, so So one of the things, I can't remember if the planning board worked on this at all. Do you remember? Did you? Okay. So there has been, through the bipartisan infrastructure law, I think is the federal program that's funding broadband expansion. And here in Caribou, on the city council level, they heard presentations from Charter, from Consolidated, from Pioneer, the city, the Caribou Utilities District also working on an option, because we do hear from the 200 and some households that broadband does not reach, When are you going to bring broadband? When are you going to bring broadband? And like you were saying, when you moved up here, remote work, like you were a pioneer, there's your superpower. Amanda is a pioneer, so yeah. But now people feel that that should be an option at every house. Like every house in Caribou should have access to that, because that's how we're going to get people with professional jobs, is bringing them here and they can work from home.
When we looked at houses, the first thing we looked at was the overhead utilities running on the road. That was the first thing, because we had to have internet.
It's more than that, it's become a right.
Yeah.
The right to food, the
Yeah.
right to shelter, the
Yes.
right to internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why our money's flowing. It's become a right. You can't survive without it.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
largely true.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you, like if you go to a doctor's appointment or something, it has right in, your patient room, you can have you can call ahead and have a remote call with your doctor, and I have to think for some people, they might like that option instead of, getting in their car and driving to the doctor. People that have, I've heard from, I attend the meetings for the veterans group in Aroostook County too, as a city manager. And there's people that instead of driving to Togus can now have their consultations and things with doctors remotely. And so it shouldn't matter where you live, you should be able to have that same access. So what happened was, in the beginning of the year, Charter applied for a Reach Me line extension grant from the Maine Connectivity Authority. And April 24th of this year, they were awarded that grant, totaling $6.9 million for 13 communities, of which Caribou is one. You probably don't have, no.
I have wireless internet. That's the only thing available.
Yeah. And I check in with them every couple weeks because, of course, I have, like you see, this manager's report, I have to have this for every council meeting. So every 2 weeks, I have that reminder to say, okay, where are we? And for a long time, we were nowhere. And so finally in, I'm going to say late August, they said, okay, what they represented to me, and I say they, being the Maine Connectivity Authority and Charter, was they have a contract which was due to be returned to MCA by the end of September. So of course, I checked in with them the next week and said, okay, September is over, so where are we with the contract? Are you going to start working on poll permits? And so I didn't hear anything right away. And then I did hear last Friday at 3:15, which
It's always Friday.
well, and
Always Friday.
The funny thing is, I sent out my council packet like at 3 o'clock, and literally I had 3 things happen at 3:15, and I'm like, how on a Friday afternoon would I have 3 things that happen, all at one time? And they were all about grant things. And I see Andrew Butcher, who's the president of MCA. He's calling me, and I was on the phone with someone else. I'm like, I gotta go. And so I took the call, and he's like, yeah, this is Andrew Butcher. Do you have time to talk? And I'm like, yeah. Are you calling me with an update? And so I talked to him. I usually talk to Brian Allenby, who works there, and he was on the phone too. And so apparently what they were working on was not a contract. It was, I guess, a draft agreements that they would have to sign for the grant. And Charter, and then later Charter followed up with me. MCA sent me a letter, which I forwarded to the council. So Charter says that the language that was in the grant materials about their subsidized rates, like so if you're low income, you can qualify for a lower price for your internet. It's like, I don't know if the subsidy is $30 or the people are paying $30. There's $30 in there, but I'm not exactly sure what that is. MCA is requiring a 5-year commitment to that, which is not palatable to Charter. So they are not signing anything at this time, and now they're working on a compromise, and so a new contract will be going out to them. So in the letter that I received from MCA, they said if they cannot reach an agreement with Charter, then the money would be back into the pot, and communities would be able, then to apply for funding. I really hope they get their problems worked out, because we've been 6 months. I mean, April 24th is when it was announced, and yeah.
So what happens if it goes back into the pot? Does Caribou have an opportunity to get it?
Well, Caribou would still be eligible, and they said that in the letter, that.
For the same amount?
No, I mean, it would be just like a different.
Starting all over.
Starting all over again, exactly. They would be eligible, but they would still be competing against anyone else who is eligible too.
But it's really for commercial companies who
Right.
have an infrastructure,
Right.
line extensions. So,
Right.
Pioneer
Right.
or, Fairpoint, whatever, it's consolidated, they
Yeah.
have to apply.
Right.
For, you know. on
For the
behalf of
city.
Caribou.
Yeah.
But,
Because, yeah, that's the
that would be
part.
the next step.
Yeah.
If that happens, we're gonna be jumping all over that.
Because they have different pots of money. So
Right.
this one was in the Reach Me,
Mhm.
which, like Councilor Bagley's saying, that was for an extension project.
Right.
It's not a, Connect the Ready is another one of theirs, which is like kind of all new infrastructure. And then they have, I think there was some like planning grant money or something. So I haven't looked at it since, I think it was January when those things were due, and when they put in their application, the city council had formed a broadband committee, to follow the process and see what was being done, because again, we have people all the time, not as much as Blight, but we have a lot of people that are still coming in like, where's my internet? Like, so it's something that the council has prioritized getting done, and we have not been. I don't know what the answer is. We thought we were getting somewhere, I guess is what I thought, and it appears we're not getting anywhere. So I've been waiting for a longer response from Charter, but the short response I had was, well, this information was not originally in the grant materials. When we applied for the grant, it did not include this language.
You know, the interesting thing is they offer a program for lower income households already. So I'm confused by the whole thing. And they claim that it wasn't in the initial grant application package, or the grant, application package as a requirement. And MCA dropped it on them at the last minute and pushed them into a corner and saying, sign this, it's a new requirement according to them. So we don't know.
Yeah,
Which
no.
side is correct.
No.
Very disheartening.
Yeah, it is, because this is something, so in Karen's office, I have a big whiteboard with all these different, and well, I have it in here on grants too. Like, to me, this is a piece of the whole, what we're trying to achieve here in Caribou, and that the broadband is a big part of that. Yeah, I have broadband. It's on the second page. Right, and so that's on the board, and so now I feel like I have to take the eraser and put a big question mark through the whole thing, because I really don't know where we are
Well, I'd
right
like to echo
now.
something you said in your letter back to them. We had a process in the city to consider several different options. We dropped 2 other options in favor of endorsing Charter's bid for this. And so we put ourselves on the line because they promised us something.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the feelings are not good in the city council right now toward Charter, so.
Yeah. So that is what I have for a staff report, unless somebody has any questions.
Very informative.
Thanks.
I like the list of grants and stuff. It's getting longer.
Yeah, well, we have more updates, so, I can put new updates in there.
I really like that.
Yeah, there's another compliment. I really like this, Penny. The big numbers. And the second compliment of the night. Yes. That's great.
Yeah, grants. Actually, Bethany took the list because we were, going to have them available at the thing on the 26th.
Yeah.
And she's got it all, it looks really nice. She had started it, and she said, how do you like this? Am I on the right path? And I'm like, oh, it makes my paper look pretty boring. But, so what you'll have the next time looks better than what I have on here. But
I think people would be excited to see that.
I think so.
Yeah.
They can see that we're doing things. The other part of that is people think that they just write you a check. Oh, you got $900,000, here's your money. No, everything is reimbursement. We have to wait for notices to proceed, which, we haven't. We haven't got those yet, because we have to go through all this environmental review, and so we want people to know we've been awarded the money, but we haven't received the money.
not
Believe me,
sitting
they
in the
have
bank.
copies of all of our deposit slips, and JR knows that because we have to take them to the bank and every request that we get for all of our banking information, Carl has to drive down to the bank, have him sign everything to send to them, so. He knows we're working on it. We just, it hasn't hit there yet, so. But Carl is ready for it to come, so we're all set up for it. Good. And we will take money any day of the week, so. So the next meeting, I meant to put it on here and I didn't. So that would be the 9th, I think.
That's the second Thursday?
Second Thursday. is the
Yeah.
9th, yeah.
Put that in my calendar.
Yeah.
Lovely. Awesome.
Weeks and months are just flying by.
Yep.
I predict there'll be snow on the ground Friday.
Stop. Don't
You know,
jinx
they have
us.
laws against swearing. on And that word you just said has got 4 letters, and I consider it profanity.
I think a lot of people like fall, autumn because
Mhm.
of that anticipation of winter coming and the snow and the fun out. Maybe not everyone.
Yeah.
Actually, my kids are excited for the snow too, so.
Well, most people are. It's just, all I can think about is our Public Works Department is short-staffed, and we're going to be getting complaints because people's roads aren't plowed, because they're going to have longer sections now because there's fewer plowing.
So snow's gonna accumulate faster.
And of course, you live in a very windy area. Like, that's like the windy quadrant
The
out there.
first winter we moved in, the snowplow got stuck at the end of the road. Like it couldn't, they had to bring in the big snowblower to snow blow the plow truck out because they hit a snowdrift and it stopped the plow truck. Could not get
Yeah.
through.
Yeah,
I was like, what did we just do? What is this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's the one that Dave is like, that quadrant, because he has. It
is.
He's like, that one, we can't really lengthen the,
No.
their route.
No.
Because it fills in too fast.
The snow,
Yeah.
take a ride out on that road if you want. The snowbanks are so high just from the snow drifting. They've got to be over 10 feet, just the snow drifts banks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress.
Yes. So that's what I'm thinking, like, I'm just dreading it, thinking, it's going to be. Yeah, exactly. And, if we could hold it off a little bit longer, it'd be good, but then the other part of me is like, well, we thrive on this outdoor recreation economy.
Yeah.
So we have to have people coming here to snow sled, that stay in our hotels, and we're so fortunate because all 3 of our hotels have undergone a change of ownership, and 2 of them are undergoing significant remodels, and so we're really excited for that. Gary's been going to the different snowmobile shows. He went to one in New York and one in New Hampshire, and he was promoting the fact that the Crown Park Inn is, now going to be a franchise. It's going to be a Quality Inn. He took pictures of how they're remodeling the rooms, and so people are excited about that because a lot of people were very reluctant to stay there.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So,
That's good.
so that's, we have so much to be thankful for. We have the most amazing business owners that keep welcoming people back and take such good care of the people who live here too, but our visitors, so that they want to come back every year. So. Good.
Well, it's about that time that I would love to entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion by Frank,
Second.
seconded by Eric. Take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
JR?
Yep.
Eric?
Yes.
We are adjourned at 7:30 on the dot. Thank you.
Great.